Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting fairly shortly. We're just waiting for some additional attendees to get online. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Ingram Micro webinar series on Teams practice building. This is the third and final in the series. My name is George Farrer, and I'm the Business Development Manager for the Microsoft Modern Workplace practice at Ingram Micro based in Sydney. This webinar is running on Microsoft Team live events, and this session is recorded. The recordings of all the series will be available and sent to all those who've registered. We will be taking questions, time permitting, which you can type into the Q&A panel. We have two vendors presenting today, two of our vendor partners. Tim Ward is the Director of the Microsoft practice at Dubber. Dubber is an Australian success story, providing call recording and voice AI services to telco businesses globally. Tim will discuss how to expand your revenue opportunity with Microsoft Teams. Following Tim, we have Rowan Milne, who is the CEO of Switch Connect. Switch, established in 2015, is a leading telecommunications and communication solutions provider. Rowan will discuss how partners can expand their capability of Teams with Teams calling. So now we'll hand over to Tim when you're ready, Tim. Tim, you're on mute, in case you don't know. All right, I think we can hear you.
You hear that?
Go ahead.
Thanks, George. So as George mentioned, I'm just going to cover off a little bit on who Dubber is, and then obviously then how from we integrate within the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, and then how we can add value to partners through utilising our services. Just a bit of an overview of who we are. So for those that don't know, Dubber's a 10-year-old company. We're ASX listed, growing at quite a steady clip. We've added about 50 employees just in the last 12 months, both through acquisition of other businesses as well as growing organically. Melbourne headquartered, and I guess key is we're very much born of the cloud. So everything we do is cloud based, not requiring any on-site hardware or other systems. We're totally independent in that regard. We're growing quite rapidly, and part of that story is that we're deployed on 200 carriers around the world. So our history is in the BroadSoft carrier networks, providing recording for carrier platforms. We launched onto the Microsoft Teams recording when the Graph API for compliance recording was launched at the end of last year. So we have a good pedigree in this space. We're recording billions of minutes and then feeding all of that information into industry-leading AI to give a compelling story around what's happening within customer networks, and then obviously utilising the API to capture and pull in a lot of information into external systems. So interesting thing about voice. So, as many people are making that transition from an on-site PABX or traditional models or modes of PABX into this world of everything hosted in the cloud in the Microsoft Teams environment. More so than ever before, voice is this, becoming this largest untapped source of data and insights, particularly, as I mentioned, when we've got very dispersed work groups and hybrid work groups where sometimes one person's in the office, sometimes someone's at home. So what's happening is, where some of those interactions could be captured by other people in the office or hear things or they could be recorded in an office environment. Now the majority of these interactions are being lost as soon as that conversation ends, which is understanding what is in these in these conversations is a big loss to any organisation. Yeah, and some of the challenges that presents then is regulatory compliance, productivity, understanding what the implications are, the issues are, what people are talking about, what they're saying, and also being able to monetize the value of this content. Each of those conversations has value. Value in terms of how you're improving your productivity, value in terms of how you're reducing your risk, value in how you're improving yourself as an organisation. So we see the answer to this is very much in this concept of what we call unified call recording, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail in a minute. But basically, it's around being able to capture and store and then utilise all the information that's coming in those conversations, regardless of different platforms, into the voice intelligence cloud. So a somewhat busy slide here. I apologise for that. Really, at a top level, there are just the three sections. In the bottom left, the voice intelligence cloud. So I talked just a minute ago about unified call recording. So that's the ability to capture calls. So whether someone's in their office environment using their desk phone one day, the next day they're at home using Microsoft Teams, the next day they're out on the road utilising their mobile. Or in a compliance environment, maybe they want to get off a Teams conversation and get onto their mobile, thinking that conversation is not going to be captured, which presents huge risk for those organisations that have quite strict compliance mandates. So us sitting across multiple platforms ensures that we're able to capture all of that information. Across to the bottom right, extending that capture of that conversation in a call recording context into running that through an AI engine and having that ability then to do real-time searches through conversations, having transcriptions that can be utilised, getting insights into sentiment and tone, generating alerts and notifications for customers is all things that then we can drive out of that from that AI. And then up the top, and this is the key piece where where a lot of opportunity to generate revenue for partners comes from is through the AA API. So being able to build out Power BI dashboards, being able to utilise that data to broader data lake, so pulling data from other sources that you might be working with your customer on. What this does is really makes you the trusted advisor in terms of being able to provide for an end organisation deep insights that they would not normally be able to get unless they're utilizing, grabbing this voice traffic as well. And just then to elaborate on that, what are the sort of things that you might be able to work with customers on? And we saw this concept of end the not knowing. So from a compliance perspective, I've touched on that. So ensuring that you're meeting a compliance mandate. So making sure every call is recorded, and then beyond that, utilising the AI to do word spotting, phrase spotting, to understand actually if something is said that should never be said, that you are able to delve into that. No longer is it okay to just say I'm recording my calls and do a sample of 1 or 2% of those calls. We can basically sit across and effectively listen into 100% of those calls utilising the AI. Going left, a very obvious use case that many of you would come across with partners on a day-to-day basis is the the remediation of issues and having evidence of that conversation at a very base level. It's the he said she said construct, but that can apply equally to the corner florist as it does to a high-end broking firm in terms of what where you're making deals or buying and selling with customers. Coming down to customer experience, understanding what's happening in those conversations, understanding if there's anger that's on the rise as one of different emotions that we do track. Why does that anger escalate and rise at the first Thursday of every month? What's happening within the organisation? How is things trending overall? Why do these people, have much better customer, much higher levels of customer satisfaction than other people within the organisation? So it can really drill into this and get key insights. Business productivity, what's happening in conversations. So whether that is just having an accurate record of what was captured, all the way through to understanding, if wrong delivery is happening on an increasing level within the organisation. When is it occurring? Then delving into why is it occurring, and then remediating that. Being able to capture and have all this data in one single place, and then being able to very easily interrogate that data makes it a very simple thing to do, as opposed to trying to get into 4 or 5 different systems, potentially taking a week or 2 to get hold of that data. Is a very different world to where we are today. I've been able to, for example, run a query and search the last 5-6 years for particular words or phrases occurring within your organisation. And then back to the sales manager and understand what was said, who said it, what's working, what's effective, not effective in the organisation. So that then leads on to selling at its base level. We're capturing the call, so we're recording that conversation and then running that through the AI. So being able to then unleash this unified call recording solution to your customers, being able to actually sell them on the benefits of making sure that there is a compliance across all of the communications medium that they're talking to. Then able to look at, well, let's pull all that data, let's actually put that into build some reporting capabilities for you. Let's also then look at interrogating that data in a more meaningful way, and that could be looking at churn reduction. It could be looking at fraud. It could be looking at just productivity. So being able to build these solutions in Azure and in Power BI is a great pathway to increase revenue for you. Also then across there, builds into this concept of differentiation. So, you're offering something that then the next person who's selling Microsoft Teams, cannot do. Gives you a competitive edge in that environment. And then all, addressing customer needs. So it's basically pulling all this together to make sure that, there is a stickier relationship with the customer, with you as the trusted advisor. Very simply, just to understand how this all works. I won't go into too much detail. So starting on the bottom left, you've got your Microsoft Teams users. So they're utilising Microsoft Teams either by a mobile soft phone client. They've got an IP-enabled physical phone. They've got a desktop soft phone, which is where probably the majority of people are accessing this session today on. That goes out to the public internet into the Microsoft Teams calling platform up on the top left. And what we're doing then is we're interrogating the Microsoft Graph API, which was, for the compliance recording component was launched at the end of last year. We're then pulling that we have some bots over on the top right-hand side. So we've got some Microsoft Azure bots that are going into the Microsoft Cloud, pulling out the recordings for that particular user, and then we're sending those to our AWS instance and storing those there. A customer then down on the bottom right can utilise those in 3 ways. They can, we've got a mobile web app where a customer can log on using our web browser. They can actually log on, search, find, set up tags, set up alerts, all those sort of things as well. And then the real power comes out from the REST API. So being able to then extract that information into third-party systems. How to discover opportunities. I'm not going to. This is quite a busy slide, and I'm sure George will be able to send this pack out to each and every one of you if you so desire. But it's really looking at beyond call recording. So where traditionally people may think, well, how do I pitch or present call recording? What are the verticals that might be of relevance to? And look at the from a compliance environment. I've talked to that a bit. Financial services, healthcare, even real estate. Are somewhere that jump straight to mind. However, beyond that, talking to what I've done in terms of the the use cases of where we're seeing our solution utilised, it really falls into those areas of risk and compliance. So making sure that you are across those mandates and being able to have the stored information for when you are legally obliged to do so. Reducing costs and complexity. So this comes back to I mentioned around being able to improve and productivity, increase productivity, improve operations, improving customer experience, understanding what works, what doesn't work, understanding what is driving poor customer satisfaction, etc. And then finally boosting productivity. So what we find is that rather than what vertical, where does it sit, we find that customers usually fall into one of these buckets in terms of where our solutions actually lie. And then just looking at a very, very high level, I mean, those type of questions that you're asking. So when you're in selling Microsoft Teams to a customer, it's like how are you solving your compliance requirements, understanding what they do? How do you solve for customer experience? How are you solving for churn? How do you improve your dispute resolution and remediation processes? It could take historically as I said, 2 weeks for someone to take get hold of a call recording, or if they're not recording that conversation, trying to convince a customer that they didn't commit to what they did commit to, which can be an absolute nightmare and end up in a law court. Improving productivity and staff performance. So the question around how do you have visibility to this when particularly we have this workforce that is all working from home, split across different environments. Understanding the customer better. I mean, there is no better way from a customer research perspective to have all that information on every conversation that you're having with your customers, rather than paying for externally to get someone to do it. You've got all that information captured in-house in all different scenarios. I'm going to talk briefly. So actually, tomorrow we're holding a joint conference, joint webinar with Microsoft about how are you ready for the hybrid workforce. So Microsoft and LinkedIn has been a Microsoft organisation, have done a lot of research into the hybrid workforce and the disruption that it has and will continue to have into the future. So we've got Leon Wright, who's the advanced workloads leads from Microsoft, and our chief customer officer, Andy Lark, who will be presenting that webinar tomorrow. So there's a QR code down the bottom there. I'll leave that up for a second, but also we'll go out with the pack that happy for George to send out if you want to take a clip of that. Love you to attend, and for you, if you have any potential customers that might like to come and join the session as well, we'll be able to really drive into how and why the value of Dubber.
That's great. Thanks, Tim. There's a couple of questions. One was around transcription services. Do you provide that kind of service as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a number of solutions. We have a more basic recording solutions, and then we actually have an AI solution that yes, we use we have a partnership with one of the global leaders, and so we'll do all the transcription, we'll do all the sentiments, tone, all of that side of things in that solution. Right.
And I guess a question on that sentiment stuff. I mean, how do you identify sentiment? How do you identify that a client's angry?
Yeah, so it all comes down to the engine that we use looks at a whole lot of things. It looks for context. So it looks at sentences and before and after where a word is used. So it's not just doing word spotting. It's actually using algorithms. So it's can share this with the community. So we're using IBM Watson for this service. So it's trained on billions and billions and billions and billions of conversations to actually train it to identify what constitutes a positive, neutral, and negative, and then what words, phrases are involved to then derive a sentiment score.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I thank you, Tim, for that. Yep, I'll be sending that information through. But yeah, if you want to contact Tim, he's got his information up here right now. But all this information will be available later as well, right? So, and the website's there as well. All right. Thank you again, Tim, for that. We'll transition to Rowan now from Switch Connect. So while Rowan is getting his desktop up, just to repeat that Switch Connect's one of our leading technology and communication solutions provider, and they've been partnering with Ingram for a number of years now. And I'll hand over to Rowan to talk about Teams calling. Thanks, Rowan. And you're on mute too. Okay. Oh, we've got you there.
Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, maybe try and share that again.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute while I was sharing. It's a bit
All
weird.
right.
There we go.
There we are. Perfect.
Thanks for the introduction, George. So again, just like Dubber, just want to give a quick background in who Switch Connect is. As George alluded to, we've been around since 2015. We are a channel-based carrier, so we only work within the IT channel business. So working with MSPs like many of you, helping you add a voice calling capability, whether that's a traditional hosted or UCaaS solution, SIP trunking, and then more importantly, over the last 3 years, Teams calling solutions. We do offer a full spectrum, going right down from a single hosted extension through to SIP trunking, into Teams calling, and then overlaying all those value-added solutions for you around call centers, contact centers, helping with any of the compliancy solutions, whether that's from a recording or in healthcare and legal services. There's a bunch of industry-specific compliancy regulations they have to comply with, as well as we do bolt-on training services in which our partners can deliver to their customers to help them bundle that whole solution and implementation together. We are globally, so obviously born and bred Australian company, but over the last couple of years we have expanded globally. So we do support the Asian and US and European markets now. So when we look at Teams calling and adding voice, we really look at what's that driving force from a business and why they choose to move their voice to Teams calling. And a lot of that comes down to the digital transformation journey. And as much as the media puts out COVID is this big beast on the backs of businesses, it actually has really forced businesses to look at how they do business and really look at how they can transform themselves to continue to do business and grow their business in a post-COVID world. And that comes down to looking at how they engage with customers, how they empower their employees to work better. Obviously, everyone went from working from home, not being in the traditional office set. So the days of having a phone system and a handset on your desk are really coming to an end, because people are working from everywhere now. People are working from home, people are working remotely. A lot of businesses now are really reviewing, do they need that big corporate CBD head office, or do they move to a more dispersed regional office mindset? And then also how they optimize their operations. Obviously, everyone's working remotely now with laptops, not necessarily corporate assets anymore. So how do we deliver that information to our staff to do their business better? And then also, how do we transfer and transform the product offering that they're delivering? And how can they reach customers better and deliver that better? And that's really what's driving the whole voice evolution and really that communication evolution. If we look at the market research, this is back from 2019, so this is post or probably pre-COVID review. If you look down the bottom here, we've got our traditional hosted solutions. So we've got our UCaaS, so any of your hosted platforms like your 3CX, your BroadSoft, your Ribbon GenBand platform that we sell as well. And then you've got your video conferencing. So this is where we started looking at your Zoom and all your collaboration. And then you've got down the bottom here your call center solutions. A lot of those call centers aren't office based anymore. They're utilizing a lot of work at home people. So that's all pushing through to the cloud. But really where we see the biggest jump is in these teamwork apps. And COVID has really driven this now with Teams. Is from overnight, everyone, IT departments had to implement a system so staff could work from home and collaborate with each other. And everyone had Microsoft Teams on their PC. So overnight, tons of thousands of organizations, you could look at the endpoint counts of Microsoft Teams, and you could really see how the system scaled up to handle that instantly. They went from 50,000 active users to 100,000 active users in literally a week. So that's where everyone started looking at these Teams a collaboration app. And most businesses you talk to now would have used Teams in this remote working. Whether they've been using it as Teams calling yet may not be the sign, but they're definitely using it as an internal way to collaborate with video calls, chat, and messaging. And that's really where the rise of telephony now, people are going, well, hey, it'd be great if I could use this single app to then do all my video. And as we go back to the double presentation before, is businesses need to record all those conversations, where traditionally they're recording off the phone system in the office, but now everyone's working remotely. How do you still analyze and report and quality assess all that information? So pulling into the one app in that one data source means that you can pull it into services like Dubber, so a business can continue to analyze that data to help them grow their business better. Microsoft has definitely done a lot of work to drive Microsoft Teams to fit the whole market stack now. We've been doing Microsoft Teams for 3-4 years since it first came out. We're the first commercial carrier to bring out Microsoft Teams direct routing outside of the Telstra exclusive stuff when it first came out. And back then it was kind of targeted towards the mid and large enterprise. But we've really seen that drive down even into the SMB and micro business now. A lot of those businesses have already embraced Microsoft Teams from a collaboration stack and already automating their business. They've moved all their file shares to SharePoint and OneDrive. They've integrated that into Teams in, a bit weird saying Teams in Microsoft Teams, but they've really driven that evolution of their business. And now adding that as basically their soft phone and integrating that last piece of communications with customers all in one piece is really driving that business. And we're seeing a lot of our partners that are really hitting that micro business now is really becoming a really fast growing market. Biggest question we get asked, what is Teams calling and what do you actually get with phone system? So we talked to many different partners who've sold many systems over the years, and there's kind of three components to that phone system in which people look at. So really, you look at your inbound call control. So your auto attendants, your call queues. Auto attendants go by VETI names, virtual receptionists, IVRs. So basically, when you ring up a business and it goes, oh, push 1 for sales, push two for support. That's what we're referring to when we're talking about auto attendants. Also, looking at time of day. If someone rings outside of business hours, I want to give them a different menu option than in-time business hours, or I want to redirect that call to a 24-hour answering service, or I just want to take a voicemail message. When we look at call queues, this is Microsoft's replacement for hunt groups from traditional phone systems. And we'll deep into a bit more around those options. Obviously, we then got cloud voicemail. So this will deliver your voicemail for individual users. It is visual voicemail in the Teams client. You can then see your voicemail. It's utilizing Microsoft transcription services. It will email you as well, those voicemails. And then calling identity. So how are you presenting your business out to the market? Do you want to present your own direct in-dial number of each user, or do you want to present that main number of the business? Auto attendants, what are the options? It can be very confusing. There's a lot of information from Microsoft, so we've broken it down to a couple of the screenshots and also show you how easy this stuff is actually to configure. A lot of people, when they start talking voice, it's kind of the black box that used to bolt in the comms room that had black voodoo magic, and you had to ring the special telco company to come and configure it. It's now all part of the Teams admin portal in the Office 365 admin center, and really they've simplified those options to make it easy to understand. So when we look at auto attendants, you've got your main setups. So I can have my operator if no one selects an option. I can select my time zone. The language is a big setting, especially when you start to use voice to text solutions built in. As you see, there's a voice inputs So the auto attendant is next generation. So rather than just pushing option 1 for sales, I can just say sales also. You then get in, how do you want to route the call? So I can play my greetings. You've got voice to text. The voice to text engine in the auto attendant has come leaps and bounds over the last few years. So you can automatically program them in, or vice versa. You can upload your professional recorded messages. I've then got a simple to set up menu. Where do I want to route that call? Do I want to route it to a voice app? So these are all going to call queues. Do I want to reroute that through to another auto attendant? Or also, do I want to reroute that straight to voicemail or through to an operator? There's a bunch of options, as well as you can actually have these options automatically redirect to an external number. So if you're using an answering service or things like that. Obviously, time of day is the big setup. What's my open close hours? And I can have different menu options or different options in how to route that call between those times of days. Also supports holidays. Obviously, public holidays, you may want to route calls differently. So you can then choose what you want happen. You may present a different menu, or you may route that call straight through to voicemail. As you said, you can restrict to voicemail. It will transcribe that. You can either have that pump into a Teams channel as well. Then we jump on the call queue. So this is really calls come in. I've selected sales or support. What does that look like when it rings through the agent? How do I tell, is it someone calling me directly, or is it someone calling me through a call queue? Well, Microsoft's done a great way of having a different modal appear. So in here, you'll see it's coming through a call queue. So my call queue is called Contesto main line. So as I can see, the calls come in, I can still see the CLI of who's ringing, and I've got the way to answer that call. This will also tell you who answered. So if you have this ringing multiple people and all of a sudden it disappears, this will change and tell you who answered that call. Just as simple as before, as setting up an auto attendant, it's the same setup. I can set up my call queue in the Teams admin portal. I can choose who do I ring. So there's a new option here many of you mightn't have seen yet. Previously, you used to just be able to select users or groups of users to ring. You can now integrate that to a channel within Microsoft Teams. So I can choose a channel. So where this is really helpful is you can deliver management of who gets a queue back to team managers just by using the native Teams experience. So once you set that up, whoever's part of this channel in Microsoft Teams will get presented those calls. You also get a nice extra tab in that team channel where you can see those call history stats. Obviously, who do I want to ring? How do I want to ring it? Do I want to ring everybody? Do I want to ring in a certain order? Do I want to ring the longest person first? So you've got all those options. One of the other cool options they've also got is presence-based routing. So this will actually look at the presence of your status. So currently I'm in a webinar, my status says I'm in a meeting. So it's not going to present me any call queues, because obviously if I'm in a meeting, I'm not available to take those calls. One of the other cool options, you can also give your agents the ability to log in and out of call queues. So in their Teams client in settings, if they're added to a queue, they can have the option of logging in, logging out. This is really great for if you've got part-time staff or overflow reception staff that only log in at certain times. It gives them the ability to log into those queues. You can also set how long to ring an agent before it fails over to the next agent. Obviously, no one answers the queues, the biggest thing. You've got overflow options, whether that's based on the total number of calls overflow to a certain setting, or whether that's, hey, if they've been waiting so long. So one of the common use cases we see is ring these 3 reception users. If they don't answer, overflow to another call queue and ring the whole of the business. So you can set all these options, and these overflow options can be to voicemail, to another call queue. There's a ton of different configuration options in which you can do. So really what we just want to show is it is simple now. There is a lot of information in knowing these options. When we get to the end, we'll put up a link to our YouTube channel. Definitely check that out. We've done a lot of videos in showing you how to set up these options to really help you become that trusted advisor for your customer. One of the things we always get asked is, what are those key sales trigger questions to know if you've never sold voice before, how to look out for those opportunities, and what are those questions to ask? So one of the key ones is, hey, the old phone system was on a 60-month rental. It's come to end of life. We now wish to replace it. That's a great question. Then go, well, where's the business going now? And is Teams calling that right solution? Moving offices, mergers and acquisitions. We've seen in our market during COVID, there's been a ton of mergers and acquisitions. And that's really where, as businesses merge, they've got to integrate systems together and looking how to merge that. So that is where they're looking to go to a single platform. And Microsoft Teams, we've seen, has normally been that solution they've chosen. Obviously, flexible working, mobile users working remotely has all been driving the move to Microsoft Teams. Improving customer contact, wanting that different ways of communicating. They've integrated a lot of other things to Teams. That voice just becomes that last piece. Integrating communications within their CRMs, click to dial, screen pops. Microsoft Teams has a bunch of that. And then managing multiple legacy environments has also been the merger. The other biggest thing in the Australian market, as we see, as the rollout of NBN, everyone's got NBN now, and there's been a big rollout of NBN code cutting off the old copper network. So ISDN was the old legacy technology used to connect to a lot of the old phone systems that your customers would have. That's all been cut off now. So where customers have been talking about replacing their phone system for many years, you've probably worked with partners giving quotes, and there's never really been that trigger to move. They're forced to make a decision now. Eventually, the phone's going to stop ringing. So that's really been the trigger we've seen, where a lot of partners have had customers ring them going, no, I need to move and make that decision now. Partnering with Switch Connect and Ingram, there's a few different options depending on what you go to market. Definitely reach out to us. We're happy to have that conversation at the end. We'll have those details up there. But our standard option with Ingram Micro is channel partners. To sell telco services in Australia, you do need to be a registered carrier to bill end customers. And there's a lot of regulatory and compliance around that. Under the channel model, we help and assist you with that. We take on that burden for you. You still own the customer, support the customer, and we're here to support you. So that's our default channel model. We do, if you are a larger business, already telcos, and want to add Teams calling, we do have a wholesale option. And then we also do support larger carriers. So we support a number of the tier 2 carriers in delivering those solutions. So if you do fall into that larger service provider business, we can sort you out too. Over the last couple of months, many of you may have dealt with us previously, but we've really built our solution out into 3 different go-to-market options now. So the one that in our channel business is the Teams calling as a service solution. This is the one all-encompassing. We deliver the carriage and the solution for you and integrate that directly through to your customer's 365 tenant. You can buy that either per channel, per user. We'll jump into a slide shortly to explain a bit more of that. We've also brought out a direct routing as a service solution. And this is a new solution that we're just launching it's currently in the market today. We're doing official launch in the next couple of weeks. You'll see some webinars out about this. And this is where you can bring your own carriage. So we've seen in the market, there's a lot of businesses that are locked into existing carriage agreements with other providers. So we have a fully integrated online portal, which you can terminate your own SIP carriage from your existing partner. If you are a Telstra or Optus dealer and you want to deliver those enterprise solutions, we have an enterprise version of that that can take in an on-premise terminated voice service and route that into direct routing. We also got a PBX connector. If you're a 3CX supplier or 8x8 or any of those hosted PBX providers and want to add Teams as a value add, we do have a connector for any SIP-based IP PBX, where you can deliver direct routing but still use the PBX for call control. Or if you do want to build your own offering or your customer wants their own dedicated integration, we do have an SBC as a service offering where we're one of Ribbon's only platinum partners in the APAC region, where we can help you implement an SBC within your customer's own 365 environment, whether that's public cloud on Azure or AWS or any of the on-premise Hyper-V, VMware, KVM. We can help you implement that and support that for your customers. So just to break down the Teams calling as a service, as Switch Connect, we deliver or the integration part. And then we've bolted on a bunch of other services around if you've got customers that required paging adapters, in-roof adapters, call centers, contact centers, enhanced call routing, analog devices. So you support the customer from the 365 and we deliver the whole Teams calling experience, including the PSTN connectivity. Very simple alt-on, simple sales process. Obviously, within the 365 licensing stack, within the business series licensing now, you can sell direct routing and Teams calling by utilizing the business voice bolt-on. If you traditionally sell the enterprise series licensing, you can sell the phone system bolt-on, or also you can also sell the business voice bolt-on as long as your customer is under 300 users. Obviously, if you've already upgraded customers to E5, they already get that phone system bolt-on. And one of the unique selling factors we've seen is people are wanting to upgrade their customers to E5 to enhance the enhanced Power BI security stack. And they're using Teams calling as a way to offset that upgrade of Office 365 licensing. Because the customer's already paying for their phone system on-premise, they upgrade to E5. They've already got that phone system capability. They actually make cost savings on supporting their existing telephony environment. So that offsets the increase in the Office 365 licensing. Within the bundles, we deliver the whole integration piece, and then it's just a matter of, do you go per user, per channel? Do you want an all-encompassing, or do you want a pay-as-you-go plan? And then we'll work with you to help with your customers looking, do they need call recording? Do they need contact centers or the certified hardware that I know Ingram's covered off in previous versions of this series? The direct routing as a service, once you're on board as a partner, you do get a full direct routing as a service provisioning portal. This all integrates to the Microsoft Graph and Azure APIs. So provisioning service is all web-based. You spin up your customer. It will automatically do all the PowerShell and backend provisioning for you. And literally you register your PBX SIP users to the portal and then mount them through to a user in 365. And then instantly you've got direct routing integration. This is really great if you're doing proof of concepts to customers. You don't need to change their existing environment. So if they've got a call manager or 3CX, their 3CX handset will still ring on their desk or their call manager extension as well as their Teams. So they can answer on either or platform, which is a great solution as a transitioning customer to Microsoft Teams calling. Obviously, you can register your own SIP trunk straight to that platform as well, and then route that in. One of the cool things about this platform, you can also have a mixture. So you can have a mixture of SIP integration and also PBX. So this supports if you've got customers in multiple regions around the world, that's a great way which you can deliver services in every region for your customer. As well as we have an enterprise version. So if you've got a Telstra SIP Connect dedicated over a dedicated link to the customer site, you can stick in, you can partner with us and with one of the Ribbon EdgeMark devices that you can also buy through Ingram with EdgeView. That can terminate that and route that into the direct routing platform. So we've really got solutions for that whole market segment. The SBC as a service, again, you have an SBC that you deploy in your cloud. 9 out of 10 times that is Microsoft Azure. It is a fully certified, vetted solution, and then we can help you around deployment and support of those services. So that's really the go-to-market solutions, and we really find now that there's kind of a solution to support every customer depending where on their journey they are looking to go to Microsoft Teams. But as always, the Switch Connect team is here to help you in working out what's that right solution moving forward for your customers. By all means, check out our website. Definitely check out our YouTube channel. There is a bunch of videos on there around Teams calling and also around, hey, what does the configuration and management look like? How does that look like? Definitely follow us on the social media. You will see in the next week or so come out the schedule for the next webinar series, or also reach out to your Ingram account manager. They can definitely help you talk to our team about how to add Teams calling to your product offering. Thanks, George.
Great, thanks, Rowan. The theme of the question seems to be around obviously, do you see the end of the PABX? Are we in the world now where the PABX is pretty much dead in most cases?
It is definitely an end when you look at how we communicate. So traditionally with the PBX was all voice, but voice is now evolving to, we want the full collaboration stack. So if we go across our customers and look at, it's not just voice calls people are doing now. They go, hey, I want to do a call. I want to share my screen. I want to have a video chat. So we went through the generational change back in the day where business, back when business first began, was all face-to-face. When you want to do business with the bank, you'd ring the bank manager. He'd come sit at your coffee table. You'd talk about a loan and sign a loan, or you'd talk to a vendor. We then changed to this whole, we're going to run everything in call centers. You want something, you call up and deal with it. And there's kind of been a backlash, is we lost that personal interaction with customers. So we're now seeing this transition now of going, people want to see the person they're talking to. So we've got a lot of partners now delivering solutions. One of the one I saw was Stratco many years ago. We spoke to the IT manager and he kept being hitting by the marketing going, they wanted click video calls on the Stratco website to buy Stratco shed at home. And he's like, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And he kept pushing back for ages and ages. To one day he got tapped on the shoulder by the CEO and go, can you just do it to make marketing happy? And then what they really found is they had 150% increase in sales because people sitting at home want to see the person they were talking to. Yeah. They want to get that generality going, who's the person I'm talking to? And vice versa. As part of that interaction, they could share brochures, share options on that call. So we're really saying that it's not all about, people look at phone systems and go, oh, it's just an audio call. We actually look across our customer base now, and probably 60 to 70% of those calls when they go to Teams is all Teams to Teams calls now. They're not even transacting the PSTN market because people are wanting to share video, share screens, share content with their customers and share video and see the person they're talking to. And so we're really seeing that the PBX will come to an end. It depends in the market. When you look at B2B business, it's definitely a lot more Teams to Teams call. Obviously B2C, so business to consumer are friendly. A lot of people are still calling up, so there is that high audio, but it's all that evolution of, it's a full collaboration conversation now. And we'll see that transition down to mobile shortly. You'll be able to ring a mobile and start a video call as well.
Sure. All right, well, thank you very much for that presentation, Rowan, and thank you to Tim as well for his presentation also. That brings us to the end of the webinar series on Teams practice building. We'd like to thank you for attending. We will be sending a recording of all 3 webinars and all the associated information to everyone who's registered. I'd like to thank the Ingram Micro team to help put these sessions together, and for our vendor partners who presented. So with that, we'd like to thank you and have a great day. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.